Good morning, traders. Welcome to today's market review. This is Fred Razak at CMTrading. Today's October 31st, 2018, and today is Wednesday morning. So looking at the major economic events of the day, starting out earlier this morning at 2:30 South African time, quarterly CPI numbers coming out of Australia. That was an important number. We'll take a look at the Aussie dollar in just a moment. Monthly GDP numbers coming out of Canada at 2:30 South African time. Not sure if that's going to make such a major impact on the Canadian dollar. And then that's followed at 7:15. Swiss National Bank Chairman Jordan will be speaking. That's an important event. And then at 10:15, Bank of Canada Governor Polos will be speaking. Now, lots of rotation happening in the markets. Let's just take a few points before we do our chart work. Number one, Euro and GBP slide lower, really testing its lows and looking like it's going to break out even lower. Swiss franc breaks out of resistance and continues its rally yesterday, close to all-time highs of the year, okay? In a candle formation, we'll take a look at that. Dow breaks above its downward trend line, finally breaking its downward trend line, and then closes on resistance. Now, that was really propelled by short covering and the fact that Facebook bounced on favorable quarterly reports. We'll take a look at that as well. Gold sells off, and that's natural. The Dow Jones rally, the gold sells off. That's generally what happens in the markets. Okay, so just looking at the stocks, like I mentioned, Facebook bounces on favorable quarterly reports, just mildly. Okay, Apple due to post quarterly reports tomorrow, November 1st. So lots happening in the stock markets, and then affecting the indices, affecting the commodities, and obviously, affecting Forex as well. All interrelated. But let's take a look at the charts and see what we can anticipate for today.
This conference will now be recorded.
As you can see here, we're looking at the Euro USD on a 1-hour chart. After the bounce from its original sell-off October 26th to 114.10-ish level, we sold off and are testing that low again at 113.42-ish level once more. Okay, so if this does break down on the downside, we could see it propel even further. Just be aware that we are at support levels and not showing any resilience at these levels. Okay, so you could see that on a daily chart, obviously, and if we look at a weekly chart, you could see that it's actually on a candle as opposed to a wick. Okay, which is suffice it to say that it's real selling here, and we can anticipate further pressure on the downside. Now, this is trading in tandem with the GBP USD, as you can see, also testing its 127-ish level, just about 20 pips shy of its low in August. So that's really something to consider as we trade further today. And if we do, make this correction, previous resistance level, as you can see, previous support, this is actually momentous if we do break this area. However, looking at the Aussie dollar, we look like we're consolidating here. We're not breaking out any further down. Okay, so this may actually lift the markets. Okay, it's not breaking down as I would have anticipated. Now, it's not breaking its upper trend line here. However, it does look like it stopped, selling off that sharp sell-off that we've been having, ever since, February. So this is something to consider as we continue trading today. Now, looking at the Swiss franc, we mentioned that this is breaking out. It broke out yesterday. We mentioned that earlier in the week to look at this and to anticipate some sort of breakout. Now, we are at previous resistance, okay, right here. But however, the difference is that we're in it with a candle, okay? With that said, we can see it maybe rally to 103-ish level. Okay, now that's really our next resistance level, and then we're somewhere up here. So with that said, we may see a reversal today. So let's take a look at that. If the Dow Jones does pressure itself, to actually have real buying as opposed to just short covering and having those spikes on the upside, we can anticipate this to sell off. Okay, so that's something to keep an eye out for, a possible reversal there. Now, looking at the Aussie dollar, as I mentioned, we are consolidating here, so this may lift up the euro and the GBP, so just keep that in mind. Now, jumping into gold, we're tapered off, okay, and as I mentioned last week, we had this resistance at 1240. We didn't break it above it, okay, and really, faltered here several times as the Dow Jones was selling off, and sure enough, this should have rallied higher, okay, to the 1250, 1280-ish level, but it didn't, okay? It sold off, and then sold off down to 1218, finally catching up with the market, and having that sell-off. And the next real resistance level is 1210-ish level, 1211-ish level. So we do have some space for it to continue, selling off if that actually continues its trend later today. So that's something to consider. Now, jumping into the Dow Jones, this is what I was talking about, breaking that downwards trend line on the upside, but nevertheless, closing at resistance level, previous support right there. Okay, so we're trading at 29,940-ish level, just shy of 25,000, which is psychologically a very important number. So I'd really keep an eye on this today to see if there's follow through. If there's follow through, it's suffice to say that the markets are not in a bearish mindset. Okay. However, if we just trade sideways and just waiting for tomorrow's, Apple announcement to have that confirmation on the upside, that also may be. But just be aware that in bearish kind of markets, we get these type of sharp spikes, but then we have the sell-off right afterwards. Okay, so those are just short coverings for the market. Just close all the short positions, and then you get this spikes. All right, so that's something to consider as we go into tomorrow. Now, if we look at the DAX, we rallied yesterday, and kind of faltered and trading sideways right now. Okay, what I'd like to see us to really close in on this gap down from 11,537 that we gapped down earlier in the week. And if we do break above this 11,373, we could see that rally actually fruiting. So that's something to consider into today's session. So you got to see some consistency in the market. It has to continuously go up 3 days in a row for us to consider that solidified, that it's correcting itself. Okay, now if we look at Facebook, this was the story yesterday. If we look at a 1-hour chart, you could see that finally consolidating at 140 after breaking this 152. We sold off quite sharply down to 140 and then correcting itself yesterday with some favorable reports. Okay, so we're trading right now at 145, but again, I need to see some consistency here. I need to see some follow through, for it to close in maybe at a 150, 152-ish level, maybe retrace after that, but see some sort of correctional move in Facebook. Now, we look at Apple as it comes to its announcement tomorrow. 213 is where we're trading. I expect it to be very quiet until this report actually comes out. So just be aware that that it is coming out tomorrow morning. Now, lastly, Amazon was the play of the year, selling off from 2,000 down to 1,400 and 800 and change, and that's a tremendous correction for Amazon. Okay, so if we look at just at a weekly chart, just to give you a sense of how much we've sold off here, this is quite sharp. Now the question is we're due for a bounce. Is it going to bounce sharp? Is it going to bounce mildly? That's something to still consider. Okay, we still need to see where that bottom is for us to consolidate. Now I've mentioned this once before. November to December are generally historically rally months. Okay, for some odd reason, October and November are generally sell-off months, and then the end of November until December, until Christmas, New Year's, we generally have a run-up. So with that said, if everything is trading in tandem this year, last year and the year before that it was not the case. Okay, but this year it seems to be, it is trading in that sense, and so you got to anticipate that as we continue trading into the balance of the quarter. This is Fred Razak. I want to wish you guys a great trading day. Thank you.